publish a book. I know you've probably said many times to yourself, that story would make a great book. I have had so many wonderful life experiences. I could write a book on beekeeping. I could write a bookkeeping on beekeeping. That's pretty good. I like that. I could write a book about the struggle I've had with various diseases. I could write a book on how it took me 17 tries to pass the engineering exam. All of these are great books, but you were probably wondering, how in the world could I do such a thing? We all have this vision of Leo Tolstoy sitting by candlelight, writing 17,000 pages of War and Peace. Well, it doesn't have to be that way, and with modern technology and modern tools and techniques, 30 days from now, you could be a published author. With 2, not 1, but 2. What's the number?
2.
Foundational principles. Foundational principle number 1. Please feel free to write this down. Done is better than perfect. Folks, that is one of the mantras of my life. Done is better than perfect. If you wait to write the perfect book, you will never write it. If you wait to give the perfect speech, you will never give it. If you wait to marry the perfect woman, well, I got lucky. Aren't so lucky. Foundational principle number 2, the Pareto principle, or most commonly known as the 80-20 rule. You can get 80% of the results in this life with 20% of the effort, and by golly, that's what we're going to do today. Let's start off with tip 1. Tip 1, you must organize your topic. That's going to take probably 5 days. Now, we're not going to be writing any fiction books around here. That is a whole separate category. We're talking about a non-fiction book. This non-fiction book is going to have 10 chapters. 10 shall be the number, it shall not be 9, nor shall it be 11. What shall the number be?
10.
You're probably saying, Jeffrey, isn't that a little bit prescriptive? Isn't that a little bit literal? Yes, it is, because if you're going to write a book in 30 days, you don't want to waste time. Oh, how many chapters should I have? What should I do? What should I... No, it's 10 chapters. The first chapter will be the introduction. The final chapter will be the close, and you will have 8 chapters of contents. In every single chapter, you will have between 3 and 5 key topic points that you discuss. Every single chapter. Every chapter will be 1,500 words. Not 1,400, not 1,600, 1,500. What's the number?
1,500.
Okay, you can be a little flexible on that. If you have 10 chapters of 1,500 words, this is a math quiz. How many words are you going to have? 15,000. See, I'm an accountant. I know these things. I didn't expect anybody to do that. Engineers. Now, what will that lead to? That will lead to a book just like this. Does this look like a book? Yes, it is. Looks like a book with substance. This is a 5.5 by 8.5 book, about 125 pages. That is exactly what a 15,000 word book will lead to. This is what people want to read. Nobody reads War and Peace and More. You buy the Cliff Notes. I know. I bought the Cliff Notes to get through college reading that nonsense. Here's the problem with Leo Tolstoy, and here's the problem with a lot of these guys. They had too much time on their hands, folks. You're telling us a war story, but because you got so much time on your hands, you take 57 pages to go off and explain a Russian agricultural commune. I don't care about a Russian agricultural commune, and I sure don't care for 57 pages. I want to hear about the war, but that's what you have to do to get through these Russian authors and a lot of authors in times past. So that is part number 1. Spend 5 days to organize your book. Part number 2, here's where the time savings come. You aren't going to write anything. Ooh, no. You are going to interview yourself, record it digitally, and transcribe it. How long is our standard speech? 5 to 7 minutes. On average, it may be 6 minutes, which at an average speaking rate of 125 words per minute is about 750 words. 2 speeches equals 1,500 words. What's that equal? 1 chapter. If you do the math, and I did the math here, so I'm not going to ask you, basically, if you interview yourself for 2 hours, or have someone else interview you for 2 hours, you have a recorded book. Then what you're going to do is contact, and by the way, I don't recommend you wait till the end on this. I recommend you kind of do it as an ongoing process. You will go to idictate.com, ship the audio file to them, and in about 24 hours, they're going to ship you back the written transcript of what you just did for about $0.0125 per word. Now, for your 15,000 word book, that's going to cost you about $200 in transcription. But you're going to get this all done in about 15 days versus 15 years to write this stuff. Then all you have to do is edit. Now, have you ever written something? Of course you have. Well, most of us have. But one thing I've discovered, how much easier is it once you've been presented with something to edit, to move some paragraphs around, to decide, I don't really like the way that's phrased, than to just sit there with a blank screen in front of you going, oh God, where do I start? Now what is going to happen on this dictation is, you take your organized material that you spent 5 days on. You remember the 3 to 5 points per chapter? Those are the questions. So for example, if I have a chapter 3 on beekeeping, I've got 3 to 5 questions, and we sit there and say, what would you say is the best benefit for growing bees at home? Do you grow bees? Do you raise them? I don't know. I don't know anything about bees, except they make honey, which is very good. By the way, $8 a jar, if you're interested. Best honey in town. And I should point out, same price as when you buy it at Scalari's. I noticed that. So I'm never buying honey at Scalari's again. I'm going to buy it homegrown, right? Is that grown, raised, shoveled? I don't know. Anyway, it's good honey, folks. I've tasted it. So you now have a whole transcribed book for approximately $200 in transcription fees. You edit, you proofread, you add and delete. That will probably take you about 15 days. And by the way, I should point out, most of that is simply going to be the editing process because you're getting this whole thing typewritten for you. Now you do have a choice to make. You can leave it in the Q&A format, which I actually recommend for your first book. It's a nice, easy organizational format that allows you to have like the question to show people what you're going to discuss next. You can add a little more effort and put it into what we are usually referred to as the narrative format. But for your first book, I recommend you leave it in the Q&A format. It makes for nice headers in your chapter. Part 3, after the 15 days, you now have a manuscript. Folks, 20 days to your first manuscript. Part 3, it's time to publish. And let us all say, thank you for the internet. Isn't this a great world? I mean, seriously, is this a great world or what? You're going to go to a firm called instantpublisher.com and submit that manuscript. Now, you're going to have some options when you get to this point. Remember, we're talking about 8.5 by 5.5 is the choice, about 125 words. That is the model that you are working on. That's the model that we should all work on for our first book. If you choose that format, 125 pages, 8.5 by 4, get a nice color copy. Now this cover is too simple, in my opinion. For a slight increase in cost, you can get a nice semi-custom cover that works perfectly with whatever topic you've chosen so that it really looks professional. This is for black and white. If you have color photos, the cost can start soaring, but black and white photos don't cost anything more. Minimum order is 25 copies for that. And the cost for 25 copies is going to be $7 per book, roughly, approximately $175 to publish your book and get 25 copies. Now, this is a volume business, so as you can probably imagine, if you go up to, say, 250 copies instead of 25, let's say you got a lot more friends than I do, and they're all going to get a copy, the price gets cut in half, really. It's $3 a copy if you go to that many. But 25 is a minimum copy, so you've now spent $175. Does anybody recall what your total monetary investment is to publish your book in 30 days?
$375.
$375 is the correct answer. Don Pardo, what do we have for this beautiful young lady right here? Ding, 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 ding. In all seriousness, we live in an age where we have so many tools available to us, so many marvelous options that never existed before. And if you remember those foundational principles, done is better than perfect. Don't try to make this a perfect book. Your second book may be perfect. And remember the 80-20 rule. Apply those foundational principles, just get that book put together quickly, and you too will be a published author in 30 days.